thank you, Ken, for joining us today on CdLS Connections, which is a podcast that we put together to try and share the stories of families with CdLS and other experts. And we met by random, actually, on Instagram, where I found you and your daughter Tamara playing the guitar, and you had a story to tell, and you've been agreeable to share with the broader CdLS audience your story with Tams and how CdLS Dads came about.
Okay, I'm Ken, and when you see my name and you end up Googling my name, if you can ever spell my name, you'll find that I am literally everybody except the bowler. And I grew up in Wisconsin, and everybody was a bowler except me. But you're going to see somebody that works for the government. You're going to see somebody that sits on a school board. You're going to see somebody wearing bib overalls in a shed that looks just like this one. First off, I'm Tammy's dad. Okay. If there's anything that I will identify in life that's most important and meaningful, it's I'm Tammy's dad. I will tell you that Tam passed away about 5 months ago. And so it's still new. It was very sudden. And it was my Instagram channel. If you find something that says a sensitive content, I tell the story there, and it's not pretty, and but I'm not angry, and I feel more than ever the need to be Tam's best dad now than ever before. There's a finality to it.
For
That
wisdom.
that video is brutal because she died in the car, and I got her back. Caloric intake requirement for a kid that's of this size, they can't give them that much food because the same thing is happening. So it's almost like it didn't smell like stomach acid or whatever. But I got her back and they got her in the ambulance. And then there were 30 people around her and they put her in the surgery room right away. And then it came back and I actually had hope and it never dawned on me what had happened. If she would have lived through it, all of her nervous system, all of her vascular system had been burned by stomach acid. She would not be okay. Yeah, she was just frothing this stuff up and she would spit it in a bucket and it was being so normalized. And one of the surgeons was like, "What are you guys back?" I had to tell them, "You need to let her go because you would touch her skin and she would bleed." And it all happened out of nowhere. It seemed to be minimalized.
I'm so sorry.
And I can get it's okay. How many times have what you can do for me? I don't mean to break down on here, but what you can do for me is you can tell people about if their kid is spitting up this, it's almost clear. It's like, I don't know if you've ever had like a piece of chicken get stuck and you can still breathe, but you're trying, it's mucusing up. And they would just look at me like, and we had movies of it, everything. It just went on, and it was just like she was okay. You can tell she was okay from the movies, and now all of a sudden she's gone.
What was it called? You said it was some kind of like stomach cyst.
Gastric duplicative cyst.
Okay.
I will send you a copy of her death certificate. The autopsy's coming in soon.
Yeah.
And this guy's name was Dr. Markham. He had sensors going. He was doing mass transfusions to change her blood out. And he had a system built. He had some kid in there that built her artery system outside of her body. I watched him do it. They had those gray, like you put ice water in them. They were filling them as fast as they could and putting them off and labeling them highly toxic.
Hmm.
Kendra couldn't get there in time. You'll see a picture of she had this slide and and it come time to do the handprint and you'll see that there's a print of her hand with the slide on it. It was like, and then you don't want to leave her there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they had her for 5 weeks. And then someone got a hold of us and said, the DA's office has hung up the autopsy. It's like, okay. Then you start thinking about, so what do you do? What do you do with that? Why are they hanging up the autopsy?
What do you mean by hanging up? What does that mean?
Well, it's almost like the DA's office is investigating the circumstances of death. You got a nonverbal child, so we
Right.
killed her. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Well, I've gotten a hold of me. One's in Illinois, one's up north, and they're saying our kid is doing exactly what you're describing, and they're just discounting it.
Hmm.
I told the doctor, I said, what is this, some third world country where that one kid's going to spit in a bucket the rest of his life? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And then the autopsy process was horrendous. And she just laid there. No one got a hold of us. It was terrible. But they had the best doctor running it. There were 30 when she got the fireman got her to the hospital. I didn't realize at the time. I kept telling people her stomach is filling up. They put a G tube in her temporarily and they said it would help it stick to the wall. But I'm like, their stomachs, what I try to tell people is the facial things. There's other anomalies going on inside of them that are equally identifiable. And one of them is the exit of the stomach is supposed to be like a slinky. It's curved. If it's tube shaped, it's like it will twist and bend. And I kept saying her stomach is filling up. It's going to go back and forth. It's going to tear on the dotted line. You're folding a piece of paper. You see me talking about this. And sure enough, her stomach ripped open in the car, and I didn't know it. And I'm on 5 lanes of traffic going into LA. The traffic was terrible. No one calling the ambulance and stuff. It was being so minimized. And then this went on for a couple. You'll see a movie of her playing a guitar in the hospital bed, and there's somebody working on the same guitar on the television. The nurses were like, "What is this?" But it hinged back and forth, and her stomach contents went through her. And the thank God the doctor was just like he said what it was. He said underlying condition CdLS gastric duplicative cyst. That's the key word because they grow inside of you and you never even know they're there and they're so small and it creates a blockage and then you fill up and everything hinges back and forth. I need somebody to walk up behind their wife tonight and give them a hug because they have so much stuff to fix that they can never fix. That's what I need. Ryan got a hold of me and he plays guitars and stuff. And he said, I never knew how to feel until I saw you. And they don't know it, but every guitar I build has an internet story. And this one was in pieces, and you can tell it was in pieces, but it has all the Southern California like stuff in the matchbooks. Tammy signed it. Um, and Aislinn, I got a message from Emmy the other day. It's Emmy RP is what her channel is.
Okay, I'll check it
And,
out because my daughter's
and
name is
she,
Emmy as well.
oh, really? So she said, I wish that Tammy and Aislinn could have played music together.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I got the guitar and you got the kids, so they don't know it, but this is going to them.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, I see mannerisms in these kids that Tam had.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, I mean, what if you were terrible? What if you're completely checked out and all of a sudden you come up to your wife who's been carrying all of this, the emotions of it, and it's inconvenient for you to even for her to talk about it because she's just constantly rejected, number one, genetically. Um, and it just goes worse from there. And suddenly somebody goes, I've been such a dumbass, and I didn't even know I was.
Mm,
And I have a treasure here that I'll never make this up. But she needs to know that I know now. Because once you get there, it's party time. You can do things. You
yeah.
stop looking for what your child is not.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I call my channel CdLS Dads because I'm going to say it. I'm going to win a lot of brownie points here. But if you married a blue collar dude, I'm sorry for you, especially if they're an alpha male, because we care about work. We were raised by a generation. I'm 65 years old. So we were raised by a generation of people um, who told males, you work. That's what you do. And you work hard. So your family name is great. And then you just work. And then so what we would do is we would go work and then we would come home. And of course, everything else at home is supposed to be we're the king of the home. And, where's my slippers? And I thought dinner was late. And you're running around giving the condescending looks. And meanwhile, the female in your life is having to deal with your offspring. They've given up on trying to manage you and they got your kids running around like a tornado all day. And so I started looking at how supportive am I in the situation. Um, there's a part of me, I work for a municipal agency that everyone in the world would recognize. I run a program there. I've been there for a really long time, and I pride myself and my team and the people who do what we do at being the best. And I've come from a couple of good agencies before that. So I know how frustrating it is to navigate a bureaucratic process. Next, I don't want to get into details unless Jenny prompts me, and then I won't be quiet. But I ended up on the school board at Tammy's school. And so I understand education, I understand special education, I understand the function of education, I understand I've got a pretty good grip on what I think is going on with education now. I got really good at dealing with attorneys, special education attorneys, and all that kind of thing. And then, as far as Tam, I have four other kids besides Tam. I would have really hated to be the first one. He's 44 now. I was drifting the oil fields back then. Just, I think my ego ran on, can I run the biggest piece of equipment? And then as soon as I got that one, I'd be bored. And I was jumping boom towns. He's 44. The twins are 35 soon. Kendra, my namesake, is 25. Yeah, she's 25. No, I have so many kids I can't remember their names and much less their ages. And then Tam Tam, and everyone knew about, Tam Tam. I, I took a lot of heat from the other kids about Tam. And I do want to talk about that to a certain point about if you have other kids, how to manage the situation where the other kids don't become a casualty of your child's disability. So, oh, I can run a crane. Kendra forced me into paralegal work. I build guitars. I mean, I'm just Ken. Oh, by the way, Kendra called me one day and said, Dad, you're not going to believe this, but there's a Ken doll that looks just like you. So I wear bibs usually when I'm in my shed, and she brings this home,
There you go.
and
I see it. I see it.
I'm like, why did I have to work? I got cut out of the Barbie doll thing at when I was 2 years old. So anyway, I'm just Ken.
You seem very passionate, and whatever you sort of get into seems like it becomes your passion. So, um, tell us about your journey when Tam Tam was born. Sorry, Tammy. Now I don't know how I got to calling her
It's
Tam
just
Tam, but
whatever. You've
um,
obviously been watching things and you know her, and that's very comforting to me. You have to understand that people who are posting their kids and stuff, Tam had mannerisms that I see in your kids, and there are times that it's very deep that I don't. She's not here, but she is,
yeah,
and it's very comforting to me, guys.
yeah, yeah. And I don't. Somebody had mentioned. I don't know if it was when we had briefly talked about, keeping people's that have passed, saying their name and keep their memory alive and to hear their stories and keeping their memory alive. I think it's
Oh,
important.
she's around. She's around. She plays with my head constantly. I see it. It's too nuanced for it not to be real.
Yeah.
So I don't want to. I'm the last person to force religion on somebody. Um, so dealing with. Okay, so I was 46 years old when Tam was born. So, and I don't know enough about the genetics or whatever, but again, I'm the old school male. Another baby on the way. Oh, I got to make more money. That's it. So I would actually go to the perinatal appointments and all this, and suddenly we started figuring out something wasn't right. So get this: on New Year's Eve, we're at or Christmas Eve, we are at a perinatologist's office, and he's doing some measurements, and he's puzzled, and this seems to be taking a lot longer than normal, and he says, uh-oh, and leaves the room for 20 minutes. So I'm like, what's going on here? Bride of Chucky? What's happening? There's nothing as a male you can do. There's nothing you can say. You can't fix it. So then he comes back and says, there's some measurements here that point to abnormality, but there's nothing in the measurement pattern that tells us what it is. So we went and saw another person, and this time Tam's older sister was with us. She was about 5. I have some great stories about when she was 5. But um, we walk into the perinatologist's office, and one of the guys from KISS is there and starts talking to Kendra, and our appointments lined up after that. Every time we'd go in there, we would see the guy from KISS, and he was so cool. So that would give you an idea who it is. Anyway, so at some point, it got to California. Don't hate me because I'm in California because I'm cool. But in California, they have some rules. Like you have
They
to go
have
through
rules?
genetic counseling. What?
They have rules in California?
I break all of them, obviously. But
Because there's so many of them.
yeah, in the place I work, you would just feel like people are like, how does that guy? Anyway, we went through it. Thank you for this because this is a really hard part. We went through 3 mandatory sessions. I mean, they call it mandatory. So, what is this? You're going to take me into a genetic counseling session. If I don't go, what are you going to do? You're going to take away my birthday? By the way, I took the tag off my mattress too, so arrest me. But anyway, we went to these things, and they're basically telling me you have every reason that there is to terminate the pregnancy. Yeah, no. So,
The beautiful picture of Tamara.
we were born. When she was born, there were some, there was stress and duress. And the long term on that was there was necrosis at the lobes of the brain. So in addition to what everything was coming with Cornelia DeLange, which by the way, we didn't find out until she was 18 months old.
Okay.
And so we experienced such ignorance along the way because she was tiny. I think I have a picture of her in the weigh scale at the watermelon stand on the way to Ventura. And so I'm over there and I'm kind of running people off and, excuse me, ma'am. And I have Tam laying in there and
Wow.
she's going like this. And so I don't know whether it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's the coolest picture you've ever seen. It's on my desk and it tells you how much she weighs. And I think a watermelon scale is about the most accurate scientific instrument right next to the
That's
Hubble
right.
telescope. Anyway, this didn't grow, but she could eat. Oh boy, she could eat. So people would say things like, "You really need to feed your baby." It's like, are you kidding me? And all this ignorant stuff, like she's not growing. So then we found out, and John Graham, who's since retired, was the one that figured it out. And he had a jeweler's loop looking at hairs on the back of her neck and stuff. And he said, this is Cornelia DeLange syndrome. But as far as how she was built, she had the finger that was set back and the thumb that was set back. And there were some other things later. Kids that are walking on tippy toes, you know about the heel cord and all that. And so we learned a lot more. But the moment we knew, it was like you immediately hit the cell phone. You immediately start jumping, and they immediately sent in somebody who was like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. You don't want me around those people on my best day. And so I'm just kind of like, I think I said something like, I'm okay. There's no cliff here for me to jump off of. I can deal with this. You notice that I don't talk a lot about the other members in my family and what they're going through and stuff because it is really, really soon. And my role is very different than theirs. But anyway, um, then it was like learning what the child was. And I think I came to the conclusion very quickly that this is not something you change. It is what it is. And I think one of my conversations with someone, and they said, so what can you do to fix it? I said, well, let's do what you did to fix you. I said, so what I propose that we do is my grandfather on my mother's side was just crazy. Anyone in northern Wisconsin would know him. He had a bar, it had a two-story outhouse. He was just crazy. So if you don't like me, then you need to go back with a time machine and make sure that my grandpa Bob was not my grandfather. So I told this this person, look, we need to go back and we need to make a few changes in the people in your ancestry so we can fix you. They didn't talk to me about what was wrong with Tam after that.
That's right.
Um, and so it became about the struggle is to try and figure out how to get, I don't know how to say this, to give up hope that your child is going to be normal and realize what they are, what the likely outcome is going to be. And then sometimes the worst thing happens. I had someone tell me, your child ultimately is going to be between 4 and 7 months old cognitively in adulthood.
Yeah, that's tough.
And I'm thinking, what does that mean? And um, so I'd sat there and watched the assessment. And they have this thing called the Wisco block test. So you give the kid a block, you show them it's a stack block, and they're supposed to mimic your behavior. And I guess if you play parrot and puppet right, you're a winner. And so,
That's a classic test on the psychoeducational cognitive assessment. Is the the
Okay,
block.
remember, I'm Ken.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
How
it's
I
good.
present. I should be the king of ADHD. I probably am. I just needed to be recognized as that. But it's like, wait a minute. I watched you do the assessment. I don't mean to be I can go on about special education. We should just have a show about special education and how it's underfunded and how staff that goes in to try to help kids gets repressed. And some of them, as you move into administration, a school board attorney, I don't care. This is not representing our school district, and I've kind of fixed all that. So anyway, at the end of the day, I looked and I thought, number one, you don't know sign language. Number two, your system represses sign language statements like, even the signing community would not accept your child. Oh, okay. Let's make sure that we've listed everyone who will reject my child. Is Santa Claus and Easter Bunny on the list too, dude? No. So you don't know sign language. She's trying to talk to you. She's trying to maybe tell you to slow down with how she's responding. Does she have an auditory processing delay? Does the necrosis in her on her brain lobes, does that slow things down a little bit? I mean, are you giving her her best opportunity to show her potential?
Yeah.
So I thought, this is garbage. So I'll show her potential. So I asked the question, what is the indicator? Lack of emerging math skills. And I literally started laughing. I don't see many 4 or 7 months old with Texas Instruments calculators,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't see that. And so I thought, what is 7 months, 8 months older? I'm not going to cut hairs, but are you crawling around going goo goo gaga? And then all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, there's a round object over there, and there's an isosceles triangle over here. It's like, no, dude, what are you doing? So it hit me. Tammy would bounce around to music in a pattern. Tammy also, the movie Cars, when she got older, about when she could walk, which turned about 4, there was a car in the movie that would take off. She would go to the CD player, the DVD player, and push it. By the way, I still don't know how to program a DVD or DVR. So anyway, she would run to the thing and she would hit rewind to a certain spot and then leave the room and then come back later right at the same moment and do it again and do it repetitively. I'm thinking, how can this be? So anyway, I built a guitar. I got on the internet. There's some guy named C6 Steve. No one in America knows who he is. He fills stadiums in Europe. If you're in Europe, you should go see him.
I
Anyway,
will.
so I built this guitar out of a cigar box.
It's amazing.
It's junky. It's the worst thing in the world. I actually got C6 Steve. I hunted him down and he played it and signed it. And there's a movie of him
Oh,
doing that
wow.
on the internet. Anyway, I took that and where's my pointer? Excuse me. I have a pointer that I use on my channels. I'm going to be I'm going to need therapy now because I can't find it. Anyway, this box right here has a pickup in it. It's called the Mississippi Disco Machine. If you kick it, it makes noise like a drum.
Oh, wow.
So I put her in a chair. I put this by her feet and I handed her this, and she went and was taking her foot. And if that is not mathematics, mathematics is basically, music is basically three-dimensional mathematics. And so I went into the meeting. We had the meeting. And I said, I did my own analysis and I showed it. And I looked around the room and the teachers were like, yes, but they couldn't show it. It was like, yes, we finally got somebody that is putting the puppet that was being pushed by the administration to squelch things.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the teachers or one of the therapists started talking about this. And so then Tam would come to me. Let me find something here. You need to reel me in, I think.
No, no, this is good. This is good. It's the story of how
So,
Tammy, and I think where a lot of parents sometimes there's a lot of self-doubt. I mean, if like for my husband and I, this our daughter being born and the more families I speak to, it's like a moment to awaken and you start realizing how limiting our society is in thinking about what's typical and the boxes that we put everybody in. And what you're just sharing with us is your how you've advocated for Tammy to be seen for who she is, not for who she's
so
not.
I've never been able to be put in a box. The older I get, the more I like donuts. They
Mhm.
have to rebuild the box.
Yeah.
Um, so here's Tam. Tam would not use her device to speak. So I want to talk about this. Think about this. Um, I'm a publicly elected school board official. Think about that. There are actually a majority of people out there in my town that would vote for me. That I mean, I think there's a shortage of therapists. But um,
Well, it's probably having
Tam,
somebody who speaks their mind, I think, is refreshing.
okay, that's nice of you. So at the end of the day, um, think about this. You have a device. This is swing. No, we can't do that. We have to have an adult program a device. And you got all these folders and you try to figure out in your brain what that kid how they can navigate. I can't even navigate a computer,
Yeah.
right? Um, I analyzed tree populations systematically, and we left that part out. There's a part of me that whether it was moving drilling rigs or analyzing tree populations, doing budget, there's a part of me that just goes boom, boom, boom. This equals this, but it's not so rigid that I remember that better is the enemy of good. But when you have the framework in order, then you can look for creativity. And I think that's a good thing when it comes to um, dealing with one of these children advocating. If your feelings, if you're in denial, all those things, if those aren't structurally in order, for example, I used to move drilling rigs that would drill to depths of 20 and 30,000 feet, and they would take 100, 110 truckloads to move. And if they were moving 300 miles and you loaded out the wrong pieces, the cranes over there are shut down. The drilling company's going broke. So I got good at knowing what comes next and next. And then that took me into palm trees and tree evaluations and setting up computers. And so one day I might be pulling a burned up palm tree off the volcano at the Mirage with a crane. The next day I'm in the back area by the dolphins analyzing the trees and generating computer reports. So anyway, so yeah, we have to have Tam using a computer. And we had the best consultant. If you're in California, her name is Cindy Cottier. And she was telling us your child cannot be a puppet. So contextual things like parroting, conceptual, where your child is showing you what they are. So anyway, Tam had these computers and she refused to use them. So again, think about this. You are on a swing. I caught Tam watching stunt swinging. Kids were going all the way around, flipping over backwards, jumping off, doing backflips. I'm like, Tam. And I built her two swings. There was one in the front, one in the back, and she would get going high. And it was like, Tam, Tam, what are you doing? Anyway, I'll post some pictures on my site,
Yeah.
and everyone can say, oh my gosh, what a terrible parent. So, disclaimer. So, anyway, think about this. You're on a swing, and all the other kids, you're not going to their party. They don't know who you are. You can't talk. You're automatically dismissed. You're not a behavioral problem, but you're just kind of there, kind of like a knickknack on your grandma's doily on that shelf up there, kind of thing. So you're swinging back and forth, and you want to participate. So you want to say, "I like to swing." So what do? You stop, you go get your iPad, you open up 17 different things, you click this, and then the fold, and then 20 minutes later, the machine goes, I like to swing. Well, meanwhile, someone's taking your swing. It was like,
Yeah.
does this
It
make
won't
any
respond.
sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything there's discounting. So she would bring me, I think the music we listen to, there's a part of it that has something to do with repression. There's a part of it, we listen to blues music that come with sharecroppers, and they would use this thing and it slides up and down and it makes this weird noise, and it's the male female call and response thing. And I think it rings our bones like a guitar string.
Yeah, like a
So one
vibration.
day she brings me this song. It didn't have the ad on it there. Listen to this. Can you hear it?
No,
You can't hear it.
I can't hear anything.
Okay.
What's it called?
It's called Sun Sinking Low.
Okay, send me the link and I'll try and add it after the fact.
It's awesome.
Okay.
So she brings me this. The program knows it's trying to drown out um, the music. Anyway, I have to go into professional settings and do something, so I'll do that later. Anyway, so Tam brings me this, and she keeps playing it over and over and over. So I find out who this person is, and I research them, and I build a guitar, and I just send it to them. And so she made a video, and I'll send you that link too, where she explains that this guy basically stalked me down, forced the guitar on me, and it's got a matchbook on it from where I went to camp with my drummer when I was 14 years old, and it's built to her.
Is she the
And
one talking? There's a tree behind her in
yeah,
the
and she's
video?
going,
Oh yeah.
and we speak for Tammy with our
Yes.
guitars.
Yes.
Well,
Beautiful. I'll put
well,
a link, I'll put a link to that video.
so she did a whole album with one of Tammy's guitars.
Wow. That's amazing.
So this guitar,
Beautiful.
I got the original one back. I said, I want that one back. I'll build you this one.
Yeah.
There was a plane crash on May 16th, 1938, about 5 miles from me. It took me years to find it. And this guitar is about that. There were two children that died on the plane,
Oh my
and she
goodness.
made an album. Now, as Tam got going, this album, this album, Gallia Volt's awesome. That's one of our guitars on the cover. This was
Oh
number one on the
wow.
blues chart. And so I would just
That's
send these
amazing.
guitars to these people, and Tam would I would show Tam, and she would look at the wall where the guitar was, and she would sign them and help me build them. She would level bridges and put matchbooks on the neck, and she would look at the wall, and the guitar wasn't there. And
Ah.
so um, she would, and so she would get this look on her face, and it click, and then she would go, because they'll hug themselves if they're happy. They'll get
Yeah.
really like animated, and it was like, and she was proud of herself. And
Wow.
that moment is like, it's like you have to stop looking for what your child is not. I
Yeah.
mean, parenting tip. You ready for parenting tip?
Give it.
My thing is called CdLS Dads. And guys, if your wife is watching me tell them how you should act and they're coming and dogging you, that's not my problem. Just try to stop for a minute and go, okay, just because I come home and I worked all day, there might be something I could do at home to participate in my kids' life. So here's the deal about kids. You want to talk about the failure of public education? Say no.
No.
Okay, we won't.
Well, I mean,
We'll
I
talk
have my
about,
own personal thoughts about public education.
well, good. Then you can just go like this all the time. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Um, I have another load that got done.
I
just
might have to get you to take that video down.
I will. So anyway, I just threw you for a loop, and now I'm
Yeah.
going in for where I wanted to go anyway. That's a
Yeah, go.
tactic I use.
Go for it.
So anyway, when I was in school, I was in elementary school, mid 60s. We were building factory workers.
Well, that's
There
what the
were some,
education system was meant for.
that's what some kids are. I finally got it. I learned it 40 years after people who, like you who are educated did, but so let me have this. So
Go
I
for it.
sit on a school board. So 40 years later, I start thinking I was meant to be a factory worker. Contextual communication. I can write, I can read, I can do simple math, and I know how to sit in my chair all day. Well, I didn't. Do you see the picture of George Washington up there?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay, so when I was a kid, I shouldn't tell this, but I will. I was probably in fifth grade. Back then, your parents could send you to the store and give you a note, and you could buy cigarettes and beer on your bicycle.
That's true.
And it was a weird
Especially in
time.
America.
So I, so yeah, especially in California. So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to be disowned. The governor's probably going to throw me out of state for this one. Anyway, I figured out you did not have gum in school. This was like capital punishment stuff. You certainly did not have a cigarette and a match. So the teacher left the room. I got in my chair. I went up and I put the gum I was chewing on the glass and put the lit cigarette. And the teacher come back in the room and George Washington is smoking a Marlboro. I was an immediate cult hero, but I was an arsonist, a terrorist, and everything else. And I got suspended out of school immediately. Well, I think what went wrong is when the teacher come back, everybody looked at me. It's like, why are you guys looking at me? They kind of would have figured it out.
Yeah.
So I think there were kids that were just inherently intelligent and that they were headed down a different path as long as they were compliant, right? And then you got the normal kids that get C's because we got to have factory workers, right? And then you got me over here faking intelligence by being neurotic. And we had what some of the neurodiversities going on back then, but I was a behavioral problem. And so it was about what I was not. And that leads, guys, don't do that because it turns into this 65 years later. But I started looking at Tam and going, I can figure out what she is. I can figure out where this is going, but I need her to communicate. And I need everybody to think Tam is cool. So she would come in to school with these guitars and be like, oh my, where did you get that? Right. And
That is
so
pretty cool.
I wanted Tam to be cool. I had one too many people look at her and get that look on her face, and I'd had enough. So, okay, so give me something hard to deal with. Let's breach a topic that's rough.
So how did it change your like perspective on life in terms of what were your initial emotions? Were you sad? Were you angry? Do you recall those moments early on when you realized that she was maybe not going to have a typical, like you talked about how you found a way to sort of in an advocacy role, but what was your own personal sort of journey with going to acceptance? And we've talked a lot about, especially dads that maybe because they can't fix it, which is and that's a total stereotype, but in terms of many dads feel like it's not something you can fix. And there's an element of denial and this maybe inability to fully be able to communicate one's emotions or even have sort out what the emotions you might have. So if there's dads listening to this who are in those initial months and years of the journey, do you have any sort of insights if you look back as to how you came to acceptance?
Let's start with this. I am the alpha male. I was put on this earth to run crews. I was put on this earth to put work together effectively. I run high output teams. There's not many Hallmark cards in the process for me and my team. And so I am the fixer. And you will hear me with getting frustrated in the school board meeting when people are like, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. When you bring your problem to me, I will fix it. But you may not like the methodology and you may not like the outcome. So I still have to stop and think like, am I sending the message out to people who want to grieve that it's not convenient for me to grieve and it's not convenient to the workflow process for you to have feelings, and you should be happy with the wonderful results that we provide the taxpayer on a consistent basis. So therefore, you have a wonderful evaluation. That doesn't go well with other people, and your advocacy can become to be seen as you um, self-promoting is a lack of a better word. Um, and if you're so busy that you can't learn your child, let's go backwards a minute. Here's what I would tell people about parenting if you're a guy. Your child does not need to be you. If you don't have a washer and dryer, but you're 34 years old and you have the best dirt bike in the neighborhood and everybody comes over in the garage and drinks beer with you and thinks it's cool, you're kind of off track. If you didn't get to play professional football, but you're beating on your kid to be the best they can be, and you're pushing all kinds of sports and weird stuff on them, and you're trying to live vicariously through them, that has a terrible effect. So, your job as a parent, and I have to clarify what I'm going to say here. Your child is most dependent on you the day they are born, and each day less so. Now, I'm not saying, you know, send your kid to the laundromat on day two. No, but if your kid is getting on 15 and 16 years old and you're still having to make to give significant social and ethical input to them and guide them how to be and tell them what to feel and constantly reminding them that they're an embarrassment, you have missed out on a big opportunity. The joy of parenting is found in watching your child become their best them.
Yeah. Very
If you
true.
can remember that, stop looking for what's wrong. And I mean, when your kid is little, what happened at school? 4 hours later, and then the teacher gave me a brownie, and then it's like, oh, but in the next 6 years, what happened at school? Nothing. Well, between there is your parenting style. So, also don't subrogate whatever your parental responsibility. Yeah, your mom didn't. I don't think your mom's gonna like that. Yeah, don't do that. Be engaged and have your own identity, but make sure that that identity does not come at the expense of the other parent or the siblings. So, what did I feel? It lasted a second, only a second. It was like, how could this have happened? But the part about the genetic counseling, that lit me up. It's like, no, what, wow, really? Why don't you just disappear today? I'm going to edgy territory, and then it's like the genetic thing. Let's go fix your great grandfather because your grandmother didn't like him anyway. So no, it's just like it is what it is, and um, so I think the first thing I learned about CdLS was they have a problem identifying this. So I have one right here. I know I have one. There's so many ways that I am so fortunate that she was given to me. And when they pass, if this doesn't hit you, it will. And the quicker it hits you, the better. It's almost as if the parent child role changes like immediately. Like, Oh, I don't know what people believe. I just know that, like right now, what helps me is I want to be the best parent I could be for Tam when I go out. Because knowing how I was, I'll be like, if they're up there and they're judging me, I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm Tam's dad. She's over there in like the A section. Tam, I'm Tam's dad right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Forget about all that.
So you want to get in the A section with her.
Yeah, she's there. I'm going to say something that only CdLS parents will know. Your child is not capable of sin. I want you to think about that. Your child doesn't sit there and go, I hate you, mom. Yeah, that guy, or plotting against people, lying. Did your child ever lie to you?
Uh, good. Oh,
Just
yeah.
so would know.
Well, no, my daughter has lied. She's lied to get her brother in trouble. But
That could be called. So let's okay. So I could be an attorney. I was told I should go less. So let's put you on the witness stand now. Has the brother ever? So the brother's been angelic to the child at all times,
no,
correct?
no, he's lied. No, she's learned how to lie from him.
Okay,
Oh
that's
no.
enough
No,
questions.
he didn't hit me. No, she didn't hit me. No, no, he hit me.
So I think you have somebody that's more functional than Tam was, but at the end of the day, there's not this deep-seated,
No.
like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, no, and they're just you may have seen it when Tam's OT. By the way, Tam's OT is the one that taught Tam how to sign her name. So I don't know if many between 4 and 7 months old that can sign their name. And it got to the point where the I became a heart. So now it's cute. So we moved into that. But
Yeah.
she said Tam radiated joy all the
Yeah.
time. So it's like the brightness, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. And
It's
I
like
would
me without
say,
all.
yeah, I mean, the hundreds that I've met, I think there's this just such a realness, uh, like authentic, uh, and forgiving and just this, I feel like they can sense your intentions and they can just see right in you. That's been my experience. And this just, freely give love. Very forgiving.
I would have to say that it helped me be cognizant of not to get because parenting one of these children, especially if you're the caregiver, if you're going to work and hiding, I was the fun dad. I was the fun dad. I didn't, by the way, I'm going to tell you a story, and I didn't teach Tam to swear. Okay. Tam would have ways to tell me she wanted to go somewhere. So you will see you'll see a pattern in the movies when she's playing guitar. She will have a black hat on that has a green bow and a little what looks like a guitar pin on it. That guitar pin, we made a guitar for the Woody Guthrie Festival that they raffled off, and the board of directors from the Woody Guthrie Festival sent her that pin.
Wow.
So if she wanted to go to the guitar shop, by the way, watch when you're in the United States, watch television. The Center for Disease Control is doing a non-smoking thing, and the guy that we would go up in Malibu and hang out with, Fred Wallachy. I can't begin to tell you the people that come into that shop, so I have a setup up there as well as this one. But he has a trach, and he's on there on television saying you really don't want to smoke because it limits your saxophone playing ability. He's a crack up, but it's just shock value. She loved him. But anyway, when she wanted to go to see Fred, it was the LA hat that was the color of my channel, Chick Flick Teal. But if she wanted to go to Ventura, where the guitar shop is that I got a lot of my junk stuff from, and where the musicians are, she would get this hat on and she would want to go. And so I would come home. She knew I would get home early every other Friday, and she'd be waiting. And on the way home, or on so back up a little bit. If Tam wanted something from me, she would show it to me. She would point it and go like this, yes.
Yeah.
Anybody else would just throw it in the cart, it's mine. But for some reason, she would ask me. So I would get home and she would want to go to Ventura. By the way, Guitar 48, if you're around Ventura, Rob's got anything you would want. And he was wonderful to Tam. So anyway, she would tell me that she wanted to go to Ventura. Well, she wouldn't say guitar or anything, but she knew when we would come home from Ventura, there's a town called Fillmore, and it has an F on the side of the hill. So if she wanted to go to Ventura, she would say F yes.
Very
So
fancy.
so I get a call from school. I'm the school board president. Your daughter is expressing vulgarity in the classroom.
Oh my God.
I said, how did this happen? We asked her, what did you do this weekend? Well, number one, a 4 to 7 month old that can process what did you do this weekend?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think she's a little bit better than that. She tells them F yes. In other words, I went to Ventura.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I played this off. I'm like, how could you turn this into that? Right. And I'm laughing in the background. Remember, I'm blue collar,
Yeah.
uneducated.
Yeah.
Um, I have a PhD, public high school diploma, male, right? I'm thinking this is hilarious. You probably want to edit this part out, but
No, no.
I told them, I told them when she says F, no, then you call me. So at her memorial service, it was in the gym, and the whole town was shocked because everybody knew her, and but they didn't know her. And so I got her device and I stood in the corner over here, and I said, think about your world being this small. And I told the swing story, and then there was some steps, and over on the other side, the whole gym was lined up with these guitars and all this kind of stuff. And I was going through and telling the story. So Fred came in and talked to them a little bit about um, fourth dimensional goodness and what it means in the long end. And then there was a time, I know I'm getting all over the map, but this ties together at the end, just boom. She brought me this guy playing a song. It was called Granny's Gold Teeth, and it was like nah, 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 nah. It's like Stray Cats music with a slide. Tim Lohman, Low Volts. You want to find that? And so I listened to the song, and this guy's singing a song about his grandmother. Loved him, best grandchild ever, but she didn't have anything to leave him in the will, so she literally left him her gold teeth. And I thought this is crazy. So I start digging into this guy, and you'll find him on the internet. Tim Lohman or Lovolts, Lowvolts. Type in coffee can after that, and it'll shock you what comes up. But anyway, so I find out his great grandfather was a traveling gospel preacher, and somehow he had been framed for murder. Was sentenced to the electric chair in Texas. And the people that went to the seminary with him in Oklahoma, in Bethany, Oklahoma, I used to move drilling rigs out of there, came and testified and said, no, no, he was. And so he wrote a book called Up from the Depths, My Escape from the Texas. So I'm finding this out just because Tammy brings me this song. And so I built him a couple guitars. One of them is made out of coffee can. He plays personal Jesus on it. So at Tammy's memorial, I get to the very end and I'm talking about the people that she found. And I said, I don't want to tell this story. And the stage opens up and he's there playing Granny's Gold Teeth and personal Jesus on the coffee can. And everybody didn't know what to do. They're like, I should be crying. Some people wanted to dance. It was just like a joyous thing. So then I told the FES story and I had everyone practice sign language. And as soon as they all went F, yes, I told them, I'm the school board president. You're all suspended. It was an awesome moment. It was an
There you
awesome
go.
moment.
Yeah,
It was
I
a
mean,
very rough time, but it was awesome.
yeah.
It was about it was about her potential more than anything. You should run across her sister.
Kendra,
You really should run across her sister, Kendra.
I look forward
Yeah.
to meeting her one day.
Kendra grew up going to be a lawyer because things were going to be right for Tam. And then she figured out, I don't know, some people, in order to be in that world, you end up defending school districts. And that is a terrible circle because there's not enough funding. It can be painted out. Some parents are just really aggressive. If you can't come to grips that CdLS typically means this, and the foundation, I remember looking, um, like I said, the first thing was I found out that a lot of kids go undiagnosed. So I thought, imagine you're a child and you have this mildly, and you have the cognitive stuff. And it was like, well, we had the benefit. There was someone named Deborah Krakow who did a neuropsych evaluation. So we had the children's neurologist, we had radiology, we had everybody, and they informed her, and she took a look at the anatomical and the physiological manifestations and what that means in forming an educational path. And that was very, yeah, because you can't turn a Volkswagen Beetle into a Lamborghini. And so once you realize these are the limitations, now what can I do to, number one, stabilize health? That is the area that I thought I was going through the hoops. um, Remember, what you're doing now isn't what everyone was doing 20 years ago.
Yes.
So, looking back, you make assumptions that where you're going is the best when maybe it's not, and you lose track of. I've heard between 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 50,000. So there's a town next to me over here in the Antelope Valley that has probably 200,000 people in it. Well, at any given time, there might be 5 people in that whole populace that have this, and some of it's very obvious, some is not. So when you start finding that you're angry and you're finding that you feel that people aren't doing the right thing, you have to slow down and say, have you ever, has these people ever seen this before? And we asked Jen the other night, the OT, and she says, I have not seen it before and I have not seen it since. So when you start going in and especially with the gastro stuff, something was happening where she was frothing stuff up. Nobody knew what it was, all this. And feel that because someone doesn't know, you're being dismissed. And you lose your ability by becoming angry and expectant and just um, I don't know what the word is, dismissive. You
Yeah.
lose your ability to be the owner's manual for the child to help others. I mean, I don't know anybody that was significant in Tam's life that won't tell you that she was the teacher. She was, and people are kind, but it's like, don't let your emotions get in the way of someone who is trying to help your child.
Yeah, and I think that's a tough one. Uh, I know for me, like personally, it's like continuously trying to grow. But, there's family dynamics and certain roles that people take on based on couples sort of dynamic, the individual parents' strengths, previous experiences that you bring to those relationships, whether it's with the school or with the healthcare system. So, whether you've already lost trust, whether you're the recipient of a medical error in the past, there's so many like idiosyncrasies, and it's really difficult sometimes to know how to be. And you're constantly, especially if you don't have the same people always in your child's life, not only are you reading their response to that new person, whether they're a care provider or a teacher or somebody in that school board, because they're very quick to know if somebody's intentions are positive or not and whether they actually care. So for me, I'm constantly reading my daughter's cues as to whether this person is trustworthy or not. And then because I come from a healthcare background, I'm in like healthcare mode. I'm not the mom in those appointments. My husband's the father in those appointments, and I get to be the healthcare provider. And sometimes I'm very tough.
That must be lovely for someone who's checked out.
It's, it's not. I mean, my sometimes my husband will cringe. He's just like, oh.
You know what? I will tell you something about that. Don't ever feel bad about it. Here's what I found in life, especially timing is everything. In November-ish, it's if you just start like telling people what it's all about, schedule your appointments in November, just tell them, look, you're not paying attention here. One, two, three, four, do this, prescribe this, get me a referral to this. You will find that if you act like that late in the year, your Christmas becomes so much cheaper. No one wants your presents. You didn't see that one coming, did you?
There
Up,
you
more laundry.
go. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it is. And then I guess one of the pieces is how do you because these children change us in many ways. And and changes in positive ways and changes in maybe sometimes, at least for me, I think of I don't always like to be so tough with other people. But I know my daughter depends on me to be tough because they're either going to make a mistake or they're not going to care for her. So they're going to leave her in the schoolyard unattended, or she's going to fall off the railing and hit her head, and nobody calls 911. And,
Oh, you
you
want to
know,
do those stories? Oh, I
so
didn't
I,
know we could do these
no,
stories.
but so I mean, those have also shaped me to be where if I'm the one who speaks for her, then, and she's relying on me to advocate for her, then the expectation is high. And I don't know if that's the right approach. I try and be nice until I can't be nice. So I try and come in from a partnership perspective to those, whether it's, and eventually I did pull my daughter out of school because, you know, that gets into my own philosophies about what education is versus learning.
I'm
But
holding duct, I'm holding duct tape here so I don't start talking here. There's a reason I'm on the school board and it wasn't
yeah,
pretty. And
yeah,
then you find out when you're on the school board, oh, your child, you cannot make your child number one. That's a no-no. You can make the things a better place by hiring. We have an awesome superintendent. We have such an awesome superintendent. He comes from a background of Title I stuff, Title IX stuff, foster kids. I mean,
yeah.
he just he let's do this. Let's go back to the parenting thing and the school thing and we'll we'll not start a charter school together or anything, but we both got pretty good ideas here. Um Back to the factory thing. Um there is no factory anymore. There really isn't. So the idea that you have new teachers and you know the seniority system when things the finances go down and everything, being a new teacher and being um, progressive and understanding your role as to my job is to help this kid find their career path and support that the best I can because now you don't go to the factory. I don't know anybody that around here that goes to a factory every day and has the safety of knowing if I put this widget on here and go like this, I'm going to be okay till I get a gold watch. That's not the economy anymore. And I think what happens is when kids look at, I think it started with, I'm going to be a video game creator or I'm going to be a musician and I'm going to do this and this and this. I think there's more shock value. The shock value stuff is what appears to be the path to money. And so if there is no factory, kids are left to build their own factory to their career. And I'm seeing the teachers I don't know what it would be like to stand up in a world of every 33 seconds. I get something new and exciting, and I got somebody up here telling me what George Washington did. And yeah, I don't know what it would like to be a teacher. So, what I try to let people know is I want to support kids, parents asking themselves, how can I help my child find their best self? And I think that whether you're dealing with a Cornelia DeLange child or any child, also do not put your child in a position by saying it, not saying it. Just think about this. If you're carrying this baggage of, oh, my wife is kind of like, she's not even a person anymore because she's like, has constant care going on. People with feeding tubes, you're taking care of someone who has the capacity of an infant in self-care all day long. And then you come in the door and it's like, nobody's going, hi, honey, I'm home. Isn't it great? No.
Yep.
Um, don't use guilt to manipulate. I would, here's what I try to do. These people need a break. Take your child and go somewhere and just tell the other person, you need a break or you need to just go do something for yourself.
Hmm.
And if you don't take the time to do that, um, it turns into the other kids watching this and going, okay, I have two parents that are miserable. I have a father that's checked out. I have a father that's in complete denial. I'm living in the shadow of this. I don't even have a life. And they put me second to their own misery that they're finding because they can't see joy in their own child. I'm sorry. That's rude, but it's true.
Hmm. This is where I think people need support. It's very, when you're, let's say, the caregiver, whether it's the father or the mother who takes on that primary caregiver role, so not just the parenting role, but the caregiver role, meaning changing the briefs, meaning brushing the teeth, feeding, up all night, regardless of age, because that could just be a lifetime of that infant type care. Um, when you're in that, it's very difficult sometimes to detach from that because there's so many layers of yourself, but that becomes your primary identity. And then to trust someone else to take on that role. And this is the often the conversation is that then, okay, when the other spouse takes on the caregiver role to give a break, they don't do it the right way. Which, that's of course in that moment, you think the adult in you would say, it's okay. I'm sure they're going to be fine if the tube feeding is not for another 2 hours or whatever it might be, or they forgot to, de burp them or whatever. But I think in that moment when you haven't slept and you've been doing this for like 15 years and you get like one evening off, it's not really it's very difficult to detach yourself from that because now it's become your identity. And secondly, you're not in your right mind because you're not sleeping and everything's just in that your day is so connected to that. It's very difficult to detach from that and go enjoy an evening because you're constantly thinking what the other person hasn't experienced or doesn't know. And to your point, I think this is where um, every it's definitely a strain on relationships if those roles aren't really that defined, and and also you start to see the other person in a way that you'd never seen them before. And sometimes that it brings out the worst in us and sometimes the best in us. So it is like a difficult thing to navigate. And I do agree people need to take breaks, but oftentimes it's difficult to actually take a break because you're constantly thinking about it. And to turn off that caregiver role for an evening or even a weekend is sometimes very difficult. Like for me personally, the only time I can really like detach myself is when my daughter is with my husband or with my mom. There's no other person that I can actually be like enjoying myself. And many people don't even have that where they can trust somebody to leave their child with and disconnect and like regroup that they're still a human being aside from being the 24/7 caregiver. Um, I think it's tough.
What I just have you ever Have you ever did this before where you just got on? Everything to me is television, right? Have you ever done that before?
Which
Explain what you just explained to me.
I don't know.
Well, guess what?
No, probably not.
Because I'm sitting here going, okay, we're the hero, right? We're going to be the hero. You know what? I got this. It took me forever. I am on one of those 980 schedules. So I come from running the budget, the crews, all kinds of stuff, uh, complex things. I come in, okay, my people that work for me, they know. Be your own thinker, develop your stuff. I give somebody a career goal. Get this, figure out how to retain a tree that should have been removed 5 years ago. You learn the natural process of retrenchment in trees. So I have everything in, boom, all set. I come home. You go sit down. I'll get the kids ready for school. Complete disaster. And so I just learned from what you just told me that, yeah, this is anything but relaxation. It's an escalation of tension and stress. I'm over here pretending to relax, looking at, yeah, we're going to be in the dentist's office if you do this more than 3 days in a row, right? So I'm kind of looking at all this going, good intentions. And then you start internalizing things, and it's just like this.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know.
easy for
I mean,
people.
I don't have any answers. I think everybody has to, this is where like I think it's constantly trying to learn and going to trying to co-design. Like we're constantly trying to co-design our day about how to best. And then at the same time, our daughter's constantly always changing. So, you know, we went for a 15-year period where she didn't sleep through the night. So, who should be up, and our jobs are changing. We've moved how many times since then, and it's like nuanced. Everything is a nuance, and I think part of it is like both people, like from a couple perspective, is that your team. And so, how does a team work through? We both have ups and downs. We have difficult work times, easier work times. We have strengths and we have weaknesses. And it's part of that is trying to let go of your own like control over things, because control is like an element of trying to manage your fear. Uh, and and also like not, you know, understanding that the other person's not going to be at their best. So like I can't expect things to be, maybe if he's at his absolute best, he's going to be like, everything that I'm expecting. But he also has, I think both people have to be um, flexible in their roles, because there's no way, I think, as parents, unless I'm not even sure if, even if we just had our typical child, I don't think there's any way that we could have. I don't know if we'd still be together if we weren't flexible in understanding that we're both constantly learning and growing, and we have weak points, and that if we're a team, then when we see the other person struggling or not being at their best, is that's when we're like, now I'm needed. I gotta like lead, and I gotta take on these elements that are not easy for her to take on right now. And I'm gonna do my best, and hopefully that's gonna be good enough. And then I have to um, be also vulnerable in terms of I can't do this. You need to pick up. I'm gonna like lose myself. Uh, and I think there's like communication, nuance, and being flexible with yourself and your role. But that also means learning and giving up your ideas of what you expect of yourself and of the other person and of your life. I don't know how else to. I haven't figured it out, but that's how we're coping.
So let's say this, based on what you just said, I don't have to think about anything else for the next 5 years. Thank you. I'm just sitting here thinking, if I was going to ask you if you could just talk to all the fathers at once and say, this is what you could do. Now I don't have to, I mean, I could fold some more laundry, but I don't have to ask those questions. You just gave us a lot to go on. Like, I mean, how do you make the connection where you see how I whipped the interview around? So, How do you
But I'm
walk up
not a
to
dad.
somebody and go,
Like,
"Are you okay?"
yeah, well,
Without it having this thing like, "What do I got to come in and save you? Are you losing it?"
yeah,
What
yeah,
would you tell
yeah,
guys like what to
yeah.
watch for?
Yeah, and I think this is the other thing is you have to be okay with not also take that personally. So not to be insulted if somebody says like, "Are you okay?" when you like lose your marbles in a super, some ridiculous things happen and you turn into a 2-year-old toddler as a mom. And then your spouse asks you, "Are you okay?" is to also not be defensive about it. To say, actually, I don't know.
How would you tell males, look, how do you breach that? And what are some of the warning signs you've seen come out? What can we do early in the game?
I mean, I don't have the right because I come from a mom female perspective. So for me, it's very difficult to give any kind of advice. But I have to say, what's worked for our dynamic is that for sure, the strength of a marriage or the relationship, whether it's partnership of any sort, is like you have to have each other's back no matter what. And you have to be ready to I don't have an answer for that. I think I think I think maturity is a bonus. Both people
I'm
can be
running really short there.
no, but in terms of not taking things personally, I think being because we're not always going to say the right thing. And when you're in a home setting, I think it's similar to kids when they come home from school or wherever they are, and they are often the most challenging at home. And I think we're the same in our relationships is that, especially if it's a safe relationship, that you can be yourself, you can be the not greatest version of yourself. And so you have to give a safe space for that for both parties. That you're not always going to ask the right thing, you're going to have a meltdown, you're going to criticize, but somebody always has to be the adult in the room. I see she's having a
Okay,
low
guys,
moment.
let me translate this for you. Number one, I think it's really important, which I've been good at, set the behavioral expectations very low. And then when you do something great, they think you're great. How's that?
Yeah.
Not good. Okay.
Well,
Next
okay,
thing
so
is when you're looking at someone and you're thinking, if I do this, they're going to do this. And everything turns into a justification of how not to try and help
mm,
without fixing the situation to the point where you're writing someone off immediately and missing the opportunity to be their partner, their support, and take an opportunity and come together. And I would, here's what I would ask people. Have you ever sat down as CdLS parents? I'm talking to everyone and thought, what is it that we did together that caused us to grow by way of our child?
yeah,
I'm going to be honest with you. I've had a couple people get a hold of me, and I don't think they realize that my personality uh, wasn't built by a normal childhood. There's things I don't want to talk about all that, but there have been people that have gotten a hold of me and said, I didn't know how to feel until I heard you ramble on. That's funny. Until I heard you ramble on.
yeah.
Yeah. And that is very, it's humbling, I think.
I mean, you never know the impact you can have on other people just by sharing your own experience. And I think even in this community, for me, and this is how sort of this whole thing has sort of evolved for me is finding support through connection with others. And there's an immediate understanding and there's an immediate connection with other parents that you don't really have to even explain. Of course, we have differences. Like you said, we're raised differently. We come from different cultural backgrounds. Our kids are still unique, but there is commonalities, and there's also the the shared feeling of loneliness in many ways, uh, where you can find mutual understanding in the journey with others that you would have never met otherwise. Like there's so many, like I think of all the people across the spectrum, across the world that I've met through our child with CdLS, that I'm so forever grateful in terms of connecting with other families and learning from their experiences. And they probably have no idea how what they've shared with me, either their perspective on things, or it could be the smallest tips or tricks from a daily, you know, how to get somebody to get their clothes on or stop doing back and forth. Let's go, let's not go, let's go. That I've probably that they have no idea. And I think this is, this is kind of how this evolved, was that people are like, "Whoa, how did you find out?" I'm like, "Well, I just talked to some other person and another family I met just randomly, and this is what they did, and I tried it and it worked." And then that's what, like, well, why don't you start recording these conversations? And same with, I think, people who are in different circumstances. There's always something to learn from others. And I think there's also a given respect that I think people have for CdLS parents when you're in this family, is that regardless of circumstances, we have respect for other parents struggling through this, what can be, it's a major gift, obviously, but also a big challenge. And it is a life-changing experience. I don't know anybody whose life hasn't changed dramatically through the experience of having a child with CdLS. So I think people just voicing their perspectives when you talk about that your rambling made an impact on somebody, and maybe you articulating something in words just gave them the language to understand their own emotions.
Hey,
And
let's play a game. Ready?
go.
I'm going to uh, because look, I think we got, it's safe to say at least some female out there is going to go, "Hey, come and watch this." Okay? Because there's some dude on there and he's crazy, and which makes other people appear really normal, and that's good. And I got cool stuff, and I want to show you cool stuff. And I'm going to tell you a story. Then I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to tell your story because you're too humble, and you're going to tell us, because while we got this audience, it's going to be kind of unique. I'm gonna ask you some questions. So you ready?
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the guitars. So this was the first one. On the back is, this is called the sin side. It's like the stuff you shouldn't be doing: cigarettes, a Thunderbird, oil field, SpaghettiOs. I mean, guys, if you really want to give someone a break, Marie Calendar pie with some SpaghettiOs on the top. Make dinner every once in a while. Give them a break. Okay. Oh, if you're going to make guitars out of license plates, if you're not going to make 200 guitars, then you probably don't need 200 license plates. You don't even want to see what I got in here. So then what happened? Well, um, where is it? Oh, here we go. There's a guy named Reverend Peyton, and he sang a song about a 1972 Chevy pickup truck. So I made a guitar. It's got 1972 Chevy pickup parts all over it. And he was playing this and whatever. So that turned into license plates. And then at some point, when you go to yard sales, do they have yard sales in Canada?
They do.
Good.
We call them garage sales.
Good. I'll be up there this Saturday. So look at this.
Oh, wow.
This was the guitar. Okay.
Is that from a yard sale?
do not try to find out where I buy my guitar so you can go buy them in front of me. No, no, Jenny, no. So that guitar is how this one started. It looked that bad. And so we take things, this is called the California junk pilot. I do hashtags and stuff. It's got a California license plate on it from the 50s. It was made in 1950. It's cracked, it's busted up. This is one that you see Tammy playing pretty frequently on my channel. So then I started making stuff like this. This one's going to Italy. This is a big body arch top.
Wow.
This
That's
is going to
beautiful.
Italy. It'll be in Italy by the end of the month. And then, oh, this one was pulled out of a store window on the way to FES, Ventura. It was in pieces. This appears to be a 1950s Gibson ES 175. If it was, it would be worth $5,000 in any condition. Tam signed all these. Now, this
Beautiful.
went out to somebody, and after she passed, they gave it back to me. There's
Wow.
all kinds of wood in here from Reuben Lacey, who was a preacher in the 1920s, Son House, Alan Wilson, who was in Canned Heat, and all these people. So all these things are adorned pretty well. Usually what happens is I'll build two of them, and Tam would keep one.
Wow. Those are beautiful.
And these are tour instruments. There's Tam's signature. These are tour instruments. People take them out and play, and there's 30 people out there that have them. And they talk about Tam, and you'll hear them say, "This one's for Tammy." So Tammy was left-handed. She would play upside down, and
Yeah.
Elizabeth Cotton was a blues player that would get a hold of her brother and uncle's guitar and learned how to play them upside down. So if you listen to Elizabeth Cotton, and the term cotton picking was that's what it meant. But she she would play upside down. So Tammy's name, Tamara, is Hebrew for date palm. So I made a left-handed guitar for Tam. Now everybody signed this after she passed.
Wow.
It has a Mississippi license plate that said Tammy. It took me a long time to fix that, find that. But everybody signed this. This is a screamer. It has, I got a guitar off of a guy that knew his story, and he made this. It's like Letterman's jacket. He's got a stitcher that does this. But
Wow.
this coin up here is a Phoenician coin that's got a palm tree on it that's 2,000 years old. But this was Tammy's arch top, and everyone signed it. It's got all kinds of matchbooks and everything on it. We sent one out to Mississippi that was stained because I do violin and cello stuff in the background too, old stuff, 1700 stuff.
Wow.
And Stradivari had a way of, I think he was using dirt. So anybody that's in Cremona, Italy, you need to get a hold of me. I need some dirt from Cremona, Italy, because some of these guitars, like this one, is going out soon. This was on this license plate since Tammy can't sign anymore. This license plate come off of Tammy's swing. So we would put license plates out there to age. So I would get a hold of these Mississippi license plate. So it's got a junk license plate and Grover Imperial tuners. Anybody who knows guitars is like, wow, that is cool. But this guitar is going to Cedric Burnside, who is the grandson of R.L. Burnside, and he was playing drums for his grandfather when he was 10 years old. Anyway, we got a great crowd of people in North Mississippi, but this guitar, the finish on it is actually Mississippi dirt and Mississippi River water, and it's attached to the guitar in a way that Stradivari would have done with a violin in Cremona, Italy in 16, whoever. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm old, but I wasn't there. So
Wow.
we send these out and they go all over, and people actually play. There's guitars in Ireland. When she passed, I got a movie. If you get on my YouTube channel, Paul Paulmero Junk Pile Guitars, you will see there's memories of Tammy on there, and people were sending me videos. They had a wake for her in Ireland, and they were playing one of the guitars that she signed, and everyone was was holding up pints of beer, saying her name and everything. So it was like it was. This was way, way bigger than anybody knew, and it was
Oh my
really
God.
humbling because it wasn't. I didn't have uh, the urge to like make this about money. It was about Tam is cool. Tam is really cool.
Definitely. Definitely cool.
So now, ready? I need you to tell me how you started off from the diagnosis to having the team that you have put together. And I don't want to hear we and they and all this. I want to hear about how you went from being the mom that went, I don't know what to do to this, to the team of doctors and things that you have together up there in Canada. Please take the opportunity to talk about the structure of
This is
your
not supposed to be
organization.
of me. This is not supposed to be of me, though.
What?
This is I.
You're, break, you're breaking up. They must have a terrible phone system in Canada, but you can hear what I'm saying. So why don't it's just easier if you do what I ask, right? So what's
I
about
mean,
that was
any of the Canadians who are listening to this will know how this probably all started. So it's not really.
that doesn't help us in the United States.
Oh, okay. Well,
Tell
The
tell
U.S.
me
Foundation knows how this all started. Well, no, because the so my I'll tell you the story in brief. But yeah, so my daughter is 1 year old, younger than Tam. So she was born in 2007, and she was born in a smaller northern Ontario town called Thunder Bay, which is a half an hour from the U.S. border. So Grand Marais is our closest U.S. city. Duluth is about 4 hours away. Minneapolis is 6 hours away. So she was born up there. Um, Anyway, so she was diagnosed at 3 months old. Same thing, our first geneticist that came, I walked out and I said, you should probably never have been a physician unless you're God. You don't have no idea because she told me that she was never going to walk, talk, or be able to do anything. So I just walked out. And then I demanded that, me as a nurse, demanding things. I demanded that they send somebody who knows something and has a different attitude. So they actually sent us at the time a wonderful woman called Dr. Judith Allenson from CHEO in Ottawa, who's known amongst the CdLS geneticists in the U.S. as well, and in Canada as well, who was, had seen a lot of individuals with CdLS, and she had a very different approach. She was retiring, and then the next meeting was with Kim Boycott, who still remembers Emmy to this day, and I call her up every now and then. She's a geneticist, brilliant young lady in Ottawa. So that was 18 years ago, almost to the day where we got a diagnosis for Emmy of CdLS, and it was a clinical one. So at the time, similar to probably Tammy, uh, there was molecular testing done, but it wasn't, you know, they had found the NIPBL gene, but again, it wasn't very accurate. And we didn't do that. In Canada, we still have to send all our genetic tests to the US or Finland, actually. So we didn't do it, but it was adamant. And I had, that's getting into our own sort of journey with, it was like, oh, she's fine. She's meeting all the milestones, which she was at that point, up until about six months to a year. But regardless, so I was in healthcare, and I couldn't go back to a full-time job. So in Canada, we have a year-long maternity leave. So I took a year off and went back part-time, and then my husband also went part-time. And my mom also, after that diagnosis, moved from Finland. And we had the diagnosis at the time, and she said, this is going to be my life's mission. And my mom has been with us ever since. for 18 years. And we really probably couldn't have done it without her. We probably would have lost our minds. So she's been such a great support, and I would encourage families to. It's wonderful if you have someone like that. And if you are a grandparent and wondering what you should be doing, I would strongly encourage you to find a way that you can be that person for your grandchildren. Anyway, we it changed my career for sure. I moved away from being in like the surgical management world of hospitals, and anyway, that's a whole other trajectory. But we ended up, even though I had a medical school, the city had a university, hospital, medical school, etc. We ended up moving to Montreal at the time, and we sold all our possessions, and we're like, this was when Emmy had just finished JK, and we moved to Montreal to get proper speech therapy in Ontario, which is a province here in Canada. You're not allowed to diagnose as a speech language therapist. So we moved to Quebec, where speech language pathologists can diagnose complex speech and language disorders. And this is me at the time, like looking back, I'm like, maximize everything. Where did you go? CdLS Ken's disappeared. Anyway,
I'm
so
still here.
are you
You
taking out a
keep
guitar?
going. I'm still here.
So yeah, we moved to Montreal. It's kind of a boring story. And then eventually moved to Toronto. I worked in various different roles. I obviously was now experiencing what it's like to be on the receiving end of healthcare and the frustrations of access and being in the rare category. So I had sort of been going to the US conferences for the last since the beginning of time, and always super wonderful, and met all the sort of the clinicians that had dedicated their time to understanding CdLS. So that's kind of where we got our expertise from. And then when we eventually then moved to Toronto, I was lucky enough to get a pediatric gastroenterologist who had been recruited by a known neuro-ophthalmologist, Dr. Alex Levine, who ended up at CHOP in Philly as well, but who had recruited my daughter's pediatric gastroenterologist, some time ago. So she's probably got 3 decades of experience with CdLS. And so myself as a nurse, I started finding people through the woodworks for my own support in terms of wanting to connect with other families, finding out who they were seeing from a clinical medical side, how they were managing, just to find sort of support. I mean, I have good friends, but it's difficult for others to sort of understand that the challenges that you're going through. And there was obviously much support, and I had experienced that when I had gone to the US CdLS conferences, where there was lots of sort of shared understanding and support. And I wanted more of that in my community. So I sought out through creating sort of local Facebook groups, found other families, and then we started hanging out at my house for coffee. And then that group started growing, and I started, people are asking, who are you seeing? So I would refer people to also go see our pediatric gastroenterologist, Dr. Peggy Marcon, who would also be that sort of the quarterback to be like, well, you also need to go see this person, and you need to, get a pelvic ultrasound, you need to go see a neuro-ophthalmologist, you need to see all these people. And so that relationship sort of took hold, because I was in sort of a administrative role in the Toronto hospitals, and sort of knew people and knew what to look for. And from a clinical side, I had an understanding of how CdLS impacted individuals. So we had this informal thing going with her. And then it came to the time where she's like, this really, like, we can't keep doing this, like, informally, just like, I'm like her patient's mom who's like sending people there and whatever else. So she's like, there had been a previous foundation in Canada called CdLS Canada, but it had stopped operating for some years. So I had actually no contact with that organization. And so we registered as a not-for-profit. And then in 2021, in Canada, you have to be a not-for-profit for a year before you can apply for charity status, which charity status then enables you to be able to give tax receipts. Obviously, higher obligations to what is called the Canadian Revenue Agency, so IRS basically, and much more stipulations around how that functions. So that was all new to me. So I basically just, when in 2019, when I registered as a not for profit, I researched how to make a website. And I had worked in large teaching hospitals who have a whole communications department that do all these things. So here I am trying to figure out how to build a website. And I really sat down and I did it for 72 hours straight, like full on. I didn't sleep. I just built this website. And a lot of the resources that I obviously looked at other websites and whatever else. So it was amateur to start, and then it's sort of improved it. So that's kind of how it started once there was a website. And I had a couple of the moms who had been coming to my living room for coffee and on these Facebook groups who were really great cheerleaders in terms of like, yes, do this and this looks good. And they were kind of initial Ariel Lalonde and Sarah Oki, who are still one of our volunteer coordinators, who are the sort of the cheerleaders for me in terms of anything that I need help with. They're always willing to help with, and they're on their photos and roles are on the website. They do it on a volunteer basis, and it's sometimes nothing for a long time, and then sometimes lots in a short period of time where we have new families or we have a gathering, and they'll help do that. And then we have sort of a group of 10 sort of moms in the Toronto area that are in touch on a regular basis, and they help sort of, if there's things that come up, they also put together moms getaways and gatherings. So that's kind of how it started. I just recruited people that I thought were committed. They've either had experience or my daughter had been going them for a long time, and I had sort of sold CdLS to them and the importance of having somebody who was committed, and sort of an expectation that we could make sure that any families that we had that hadn't seen that specialty before, that we could refer them there to try and create the expertise. So we would funnel all the referrals in a certain geography to that person that would develop their expertise. I had a contact person, for example, anything new with eyes, I would send to Dr. Michael Wan and check it through. Any kind of documents, medical information, or guidance that I was putting on the website or sending to families, I would run it through that clinical expert. If we didn't have it, obviously the US is really the world leaders in the medical information. So I would often, I got permission to use a lot of their materials. And so if we didn't have the expert and say their published content was from 2017, I would contact the US CdLS Foundation, ask, can I talk to, your people? Is this still up to date? And then of course I keep up to speed with all the research. So when we started finding these families, a lot of their medical issues were not being taken care of. And because that's kind of my strong suit, and in terms of knowing how to access the medical system as well as figuring out how to navigate it and then finding out the experts, that's kind of where it started from. In terms of our vision is that every individual in Canada with CdLS thrives from birth to old age. It means that the medical stuff has to be taken care of. And then, of course, new families on diagnosis, we provide, 7-day a week support. Right now, it's just me taking all those calls. And I do virtual booking 7 days a week for anything from providing emotional support to navigating healthcare, to IPE meetings, to creating IPEs, to giving feedback on IPEs, to joining IPE meetings, to medical care team meetings. I do hospital visits, home visits. Anything and everything that families need is kind of what I've been doing, partly to also educate myself, not only on the issues, but what the families are needing. And then once I have a clear aspect of that, like right now, we're kind of doing everything. And of course, it's getting a little much now that we're finding more and more families because we're trying to improve accuracy of diagnosis. But, what is it that families actually would benefit from, not what I think families would benefit from. So that's kind of the stage we're with right now. And of course, because we don't have a revenue source, it's all donor based. So, and that's new for me. I'm not a salesperson at all. I'm a nurse by background. So that's challenging for me. And in speaking with regards to the differences between the Canadian and the US healthcare system, we'll just take that. We won't even compare to the other ones around the world. we have a huge challenge because in a publicly funded healthcare system, first of all, just to clarify, it doesn't mean it's all free here. So in Canada, for example, speech therapy is not covered, OT is not covered, physio is not covered. Lots of things are not covered. So urgent care and acute care and surgeries are covered, but then everything else on top of that is out of your own pocket. Or you might get like 8 sessions of speech therapy through a kids rehab setting. Um, anyway, so a lot of navigation. So I help families navigate funding sources, what programs they qualify for, and that in itself is like a full-time job. Then you're trying to manage your entire life with that, plus the stress and the challenges of caring for a complex kid. Um, that's people have said that that's helpful. Um, I didn't never really understood IPEs. I was so I was so disheartened by the whole education system. And granted, I had also gone to school in Finland, which is, considered one of the world's best public education systems. And then, experiencing Canadian education was like a shock to me. I mean, I had myself been schooled in both, but in terms of the special education, there's lots of philosophies on that. And so, does integration work? For academics, does integration work for social acceptance? Those are philosophical and ethical decisions and cultural components that I don't know if there's a one right answer to that. So that's kind of what I've been doing for some time, is trying to ensure that everybody has access and fighting for access for proper care. The other problem, of course, is when they turn 21, they finish high school, and then do they qualify for group homes? Do they qualify? We're waiting 20 to 30 years to get access to a group home. And then usually by then parents have burnt out completely, if they're even still have a pulse. And then, day programming, you have to have the criteria are so stringent, like, oh, we don't take these types of people, and we don't like ones with red hair. And, like the criteria is ridiculous in terms of fitting the exact scope. So that I've never been really I haven't taken on that role in terms of like political advocacy. I have written lots of letters for our Indigenous families who are, there's a lot of inequities with regards to how those families are treated and their access, and the tolerance level of inequities in Canada is brutal. So, but I've really just taken it one person at a time versus getting on this political rampage, which is, again, because we're publicly funded, it means that the majority of voters is where the money goes. And that's typically cancer, heart and stroke, cataracts, total joints, autism, diabetes. If you don't fall into that majority, you don't have a big voice. So that's kind of what we've been doing.
Okay, so I want everybody to think about this. I saw a couple of things in this conversation here. Um, my part in this was to go play in my shed and do bohemian guitar projects and have fun. Um,
That sounds fun. Can I come?
did I do did I do anything political? Oh yeah, the stuff you're talking about, IEP meetings and stuff. I basically got to a point where I could handle the attorney, no problem. Um, Kendra decided she was going to take all these sociology, psychology, criminal justice and stuff, and she was going to go into music industry because all of these people have the guitar. She would automatically have 30 artists assigned to her label tomorrow, and she's working. She's finishing up her second year of law school. She's getting an MBA. She's got anyway. You really need to get to her because you would get a perspective of what is it like to be the sibling and not feel repressed by all this. But but just to call everybody's attention to this, I'm over here in a little town, 50 miles north of LA, and I've got a couple different networks, the city, this, and you're trying to balance like trying to be politically correct at your work, which again, I depend on performance, not so much personality at work. The school board stuff is crazy. If you find my school board channel, yeah, it's like here it is right now. I talk about PTO groups, underground school boards, I just all the politics of what it's like to navigate that. Um, but the point is, you're over there focusing on, okay, so it's this. How do I guarantee the best health quality? And how do I get other people to the best health quality? And how, from what I'm hearing, I don't know if this ever hit you, but we talked about the rarity of the syndrome, and you can't blame anyone because they don't have any experience with it. But it almost seems to me like you've made some decisions for some doctors based on the raw number of people that you're funneling. I'm going to help you get this experience and you're going to become an expert. It's almost like you got this magic wand of, I've built a team of doctors and specialists that I've been over here thinking, I want to be kind and stuff, and I want to realize a limitation. But every time I hear you talk about the medical end of what you've got going on over there, um, while I was having fun on the social end and the political end, I'm not sure that some of the stuff that happened with Tam in the end, I'm wishing I might have lived in Canada right now is kind of what I'm trying to say. So I think that getting everyone together and supporting everyone with the factual stuff. So at some point you can hopefully get to the point where you're actually enjoying some level of dynamic with your kid as a kid and you as a parent. I just worry for people that are constantly, it's the grind of the next doctor, the next diagnosis, the
Yeah.
next this, the next fight, the next
Yeah.
school, the next. So I would characterize my thing with Tam is Tam was just cool. I think in the school, I helped people to understand that the other kids from Tam being around would grow socially. I think that even in my own little district, the idea that you're going to send somebody to another school district because they have more uh, severe medical units than your kids spending all the time on the bus every day, 2 hours here, 2 hours back. There's just no quality of life. So in my little world, I'd like to think that I was able to help the people that wanted to help TAM and people like TAM, the broader special education community, to be able to feel that it was safe to say, we've got a little life skills program over here. I mean, Tam's last year, she was forever in the elementary school. And then she didn't go to middle school at all. She went right to the high school. And I think that there was a group of people that are including her aide that just basically decided we're going to take Tam wherever she's going to go during the day and not end up being in the SPED classroom. And I think ultimately, when you look at adulthood, this is very brutal. But if the father's not engaged, if you have a parent in denial, if you have a single person doing this, I can't imagine that. And I worry for people that you end up in some dark house and the kid's in their room and the parent is there doing the best they can to do the same thing they've done for 20 years until the lights go out. I worried what would happen when I wasn't around to make sure that she was okay. That was one of my biggest fears in life.
I think that's a common fear. Yeah.
Well, I think that through your group, um, because my channel was about, I don't want other people to feel like I was feeling. So I started to see, it's just the Instagram channel, and it's a break off. I can't believe the number of pictures I took. I can't believe the footage I took. I can't believe the real heroes in our story are the people that are traveling through Europe with one of these guitars and saying, I'm playing this one for Tammy.
Yeah.
Um, I think that my greatest joy has been to have people look at it and say, I mean, whether it's a school, whatever it is, I think when you stop and recognize someone that has something like our children have, that you become a better person, really.
Mhm.
I have never understood. Nobody gets up in the morning and goes, you know what? I'm going to be the worst person I can be to everyone I meet today. I'm going to be unreasonable. I'm going to
Yeah.
be just the worst person. Nobody, I think, does that on purpose. And they all think somewhere in the background. I mean, I'm not suggesting anyone be like me, but yeah, tolerance. Um, I don't know. I think that accountability is really important. And I think personal growth comes with somebody looking at you and saying, you know what? You put you here today because you are you and you are driven and you do the right thing and you treat people right. And it is paying off for you because doors open by what you do for people. Let me ask you this. How many families has your organization supported?
Well, there's 310 families that I've been in touch with, personally spoken to. I would say on a regular basis, more around, there's people who are more on a weekly basis. So, but in general, I would say 200 families that I'm in touch with.
So so somewhere out there in Canada, you got uh, a couple hundred dads hiding their grief in a guitar shed somewhere. I appreciate what you do. I very much appreciate what you do. Guys, I will tell you this. I am far from the best husband. I am far from the best father. I am far from the best person. I work hard. I make sure that my relevance as an individual, my reputation are what it needs to be. But all that doesn't matter in the end if you can't be gentle with someone who needs you to be gentle when they need you to be gentle. You'll find that your best growth in life will come through times that will hit you later. You won't even understand it. And I think here's what gets you at the end. You won't be in trouble for the stuff you did. You'll be in trouble for the stuff that you chose not to do. So when you have an opportunity to take somebody and recognize them as an individual, you don't know how much gas there is that you just put in their tank. Um, I don't think that somebody up wherever the human being factory is going, yeah, that guy over there. I think we should give him a Cornelia DeLange kid. I don't think that things happen for no reason, and I think that and I don't need affirmation for you people that know me. I don't need it. Just hold it. I'm a way better person after Tam than before, and we'll leave it at that. Jenny, thank you on behalf of everybody who's out there that doesn't know how to tell people, I don't know what to do. I don't know why this happened to me. I don't know why I can't fix it. I don't know why I can't help make it better. I don't know why people don't want to help me. It hurts me to see people look at my child the way they do. My child being discounted, yeah, that was the worst one for me.
Mhm.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough.
I want to know, who did you upset that made you find me? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Ask the universe. It was meant to, there's no
Okay.
coincidences, Ken. There's no coincidences. So I always feel like the people I run into in life is I'm meant to learn something from them and they have something to share. So I embrace every encounter of when somebody appears in my life and there was a reason why we met, Ken.
So cool. Tell me, if somebody wanted to donate to the CdLS Canadian group, what would they do?
So they can go on our website, which is www.canadiancdlsfoundation.com and press the donate button. We also have links on our Instagram and Facebook where people can get through to donating. So they can do it by PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, you name it, every which way. And they get a tax receipt. Now, if you're an American, we still send you a tax receipt in case you're one of those people that pay taxes in Canada. Otherwise, you can, if you're American, you can donate to the US CDLS
So,
Foundation.
so Jenny, if someone gave you $100, how much would the tariff be on that? With that said,
Zero, just the exchange rate. Our dollar is very weak.
Jenny, I have gotten so much laundry done today. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Ken. Yeah, so
Okay,
which
go.
one of your guitars is your favorite?
I would think that the one I showed you about, they come out of the guitar store in Ventura, the windows. It's the Texas junk pile.
It's
It's
beautiful.
the ES 175. It's got wood in it from where Fred McDowell was rediscovered. It's got the triangle of all this stuff. This has
Wow.
been to so many different people, but my favorite picture in the whole world
Oh,
is
wow. Yeah, I've
that
seen that. That's so beautiful.
that is Tam and I. There's a guy named Richard Vanderwick in Ventura who used to be a skateboard phenom, and he's got an old 1937 Plymouth truck, and Frank Goldwasser and all these different people are they just sit in the back of the truck and play. And Tam
Wow.
loved seeing them. And then she knew that these were her guitars. And so when they would play, she was just, but this one went off to somebody. I gave it to them and they said, "What do you want for this?" And I told them, "I have known you for more than 20 years and you've never screwed up in a way that would affect me personally or professionally. Just take it." And they were kind of freaked out by that. But at the end of the day, this is the best one.
It's
It
beautiful.
sounds great too.
It's beautiful.
Got all these weird little. That's from a 1963 Wheaties box, and this was in bad shape when I got it, but got
Wow.
all kinds of matchbooks. And I think what I'm going to do is at some point we'll figure out how to do a national fundraiser, and I will ask parents of CDLS kids to send me like a matchbook or some paper thing or coin or something like that, and we'll just put a guitar together and
That'd be
then
amazing.
just challenge people to just completely waste money on the worst thing that they've ever seen in their life so
Are
they
you
can
kidding
brag
me?
at work, and then we can help somebody that needs help. That would be really cool.
That'd be amazing. You let me know. There's like, I don't know what groups you're in, but there's, on Quick you can find 7,000 CDLS parents.
On what?
Like on, if off the top of my head, like 7,000 families you can easily find.
Really?
Yeah. Between there's like some Facebook groups that have, one has like I've cross-referenced the names because I'm always looking for Canadian families and or specific families with specific issues that I'm trying to learn from. So I'll reach out to them. But so there's like a list of Facebook groups that I can name that are CdLS related. And so just in those groups that I know of, there's 7,000 individual CdLS families.
What typically happens when a kid passes? What happens with the parents? Oh, you need to put this on. Let's try this again. Ready? Jenny, I have a question for you. Someone who's gone through what I've gone through, losing the child, and you're engaged some way, you're fully engaged like you are. Some people just never really come to grips with it. They feel helpless and stuff. And then all of a sudden there's a loss. What do you see happening to people that go from the intensity it takes to have these kids emotionally and all that to all of a sudden it's just gone?
I mean, I
What
think
happens to
I've
people?
seen, um, I've seen, well, specifically if we talk about parents of individuals with CdLS who have passed at various different ages, I think it's very individual for those families. I think there's circumstances, it's where they are themselves. It's the, you know, for some families whose child has was very young when they passed and had sort of severe complications. It's a very different journey than somebody who is very mildly affected and the death is very sudden and very traumatic. To those have maybe suffered from pain for a long period of time. Uh, those are the circumstances. And then where people are in that, as well as their own faith and their own idea of life and death, what they believe happens after you pass, all those, the responses are very different. People also deal with grief very differently. Some people, it motivates them to reach out. Some people are very private. Some people are motivated to try and do something positive through that grief. Some, I've seen across the spectrum. For some people, they go through the grief like right away. Some people, you know, some people are sort of in denial, similar to the diagnosis story. Some people are in denial of the grief and don't deal with it till years later. Because everybody's at some touch point in that journey, they don't know where that journey is taking them, that journey of grief. And so they're in that moment in time. But for even some of the families that I've talked to that have lost a loved one with CdLS 10, 15, 20 years ago, the pain is still there. Maybe it's more, it's changed. Again, these are individual sort of experiences that people have shared. And, I guess from wisdom that those parents have shared, where we have bereavement groups as well. So we have an online bereavement group that we put together for parents that have lost a loved one, where people can come together and talk about their feelings and where they are, or just share the memory of their loved one. And some have shared again that, to not judge their own response to the grief is, we have societal norms, just as we have norms about how we should respond to the birth of a new child, how we should respond to somebody who's born typically versus not typically, how are they accepted in society or not. And similar is our own idea of how you're supposed to grieve when you lose a child. And so, there's complexity in that. I don't know if there's one, I've never seen anyone respond the same way to the loss of their child.
Here's what I would tell people. Remember, it's been a little over 5 months. I have an alarm that goes off when she passed every Wednesday. And some people ask me, why are you doing that? Why are you punishing yourself? And um, I have this feeling, this deep feeling that more than ever, I want to put myself and keep myself in a position where I'm Tammy's best dad, even if she's gone. And I have like a compass I'm pretty rigid structurally about things, work, organizations, analyzing things. The fun guy disappears at work. It's boom, boom, boom. And so I feel like if I let things take me and where I'm drifting off and becoming a less tolerant, a more angry, arbitrary person, it almost makes me feel like I'm drifting away. And the hope is that I will see her in her perfect self. And it's like I want to be the best person I can be because it won't be adequate for what the purity level she was. And I would tell you this, whatever someone else needs at the time, if it's very different than you, that's okay. Because if they're in complete denial, and here's what I worry about, people that are constant caregivers, suddenly your purpose in life is gone. And if it never got better, it's almost like I think it would be easy for people to feel like, why did I go through this in order to have this constant challenge, constant struggle? I couldn't do anything else. And at the end, I lost the most important thing to me. And if you sense that someone is going through that, you can't make it like I like to talk about Tam. You may find yourself in a relationship where even the mention of their name early on is just it causes such you've got the person just trying to maintain much less, and then it almost can appear like I'm rejoicing Tammy's passing. So this is all very complex stuff, but if you're going through this, I think it's similar to what you might experience if your wife is going through this at birth, where it's like, my child is never going to go to prom. My child will never give me grandchildren. My child will never, never, never. And you're repressing that because you don't want to hear it and you're denial yourself. Um, I think that some people never get over it. It's like their child died but is still alive at birth. I think some people might feel that way. But my point is, just as I would hope someone would look at me and say, just because he's being funny doesn't mean that he didn't really care deeply and knows what the loss is. But just ask yourself, why do you have this child? And I would tell you, I believe this, I just totally believe it. You have that child because that child needed you. That's it. Yeah, you're going to grow from this. You totally are. And it's going to be terrible, but it builds confidence, it builds trust, and it gives you a deeper understanding of yourself that no amount of money, no fancy car, no promotion. It's just like it will take all of you when you have nothing left and you're still there. That's the kind of character that is just so rare. So, guys, if you don't understand what's happening with your spouse, I don't have I don't have the answer. You don't go up and go, what's wrong with you? When are you going to snap out of it? Um, I think sometimes the answer is, what are they doing with you so you can cope with it? And I think you gave some good advice earlier about it's like planning something, plan the day, don't just ignore it, and then find success and find a way to complement the person that's going through the journey with you by calling out the very simple things that are the most important character things. I think in this kind of thing, you'll find if you would say, what is it about your spouse that if you had the ability to look at 100 generations after you, what is the one thing about your spouse that you would hope would stick with those generations and be seen 1,000 years from now? I'm a believer that someday the little thing that you did, it may be the most important thing in your life that you did and you never even knew you did, happen to do this and this, and literally a ocean tidal wave of joy has swept through the universe that started with a simple decision you made
Yeah.
to tell somebody something good about themselves. You never know how empty someone may be at any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people that watch my channel and say hi to me and stuff, that's where I'm finding my comfort. So thank you.
Yeah. Amen.
Don't make me go Jesus on you.
I think it's wonderful that you found an avenue to share Tammy and in a way that's accessible to people and talking about things that are hard to talk about.
Cool.
So I think you're making an impact, and I think Tammy's watching.
Oh, she is.
Anyway, I look forward to engaging with you again, and we have lots of stuff that we didn't even touch on, but I want to thank you for your time, Ken. You're a wonderful dad.
Thank you.